daddy's divorce, and a divorced mom pretty much got nothing. I'm not going to leave my mom by herself. So I'm going to make sure my mother's taken care of. None of my siblings have helped me take care of my mother to make sure she was okay, except for Tamar. No one said,
This is before Vincent.
Before Vincent. Mommy's car insurance is due. Let's help Toni with mommy car insurance.
Or mommy needs a car.
Normally, I would never have a conversation with Trina or any of my sisters about helping out financially with my mom. But because I'm so stressed in that category, I needed to let her know what I felt. Hurts my feelings every day. My feelings hurt every day because I'm in a financial situation myself because I can't.
Nobody was ready for this. Not the fans, not the network, and definitely not the Braxton family themselves. Because what was supposed to be a powerful comeback quietly turned into the most explosive family implosion nobody saw coming. According to swirling insider chatter, Toni Braxton allegedly made a move so cold, so final, that it instantly shattered the illusion of unity the cameras were counting on. One sister was suddenly gone. Filming stalled. Phone calls went unanswered. And behind closed doors, whispers of a money scandal began spreading like wildfire. A shared account, and a betrayal so deep it allegedly forced Toni to draw a line she had never drawn before. Sources claim the chaos started with a routine check that uncovered irregular activity tied to funds meant to secure the family's reboot. At first, it was brushed off as a harmless mix-up. But then the questions got louder. Why were vendors unpaid? Why were projects frozen midweek? And why did the trail keep circling back to one name the family never expected to see, attached to controversy? Tamar, already rebuilding from years of emotional fallout, was reportedly blindsided. Friends say her confusion turned into panic, then devastation, as she realized something sacred had been touched without her consent. Insiders say Toni didn't explode. She froze. And when Toni Braxton goes quiet, it's not peace, it's war. Allegedly armed with paperwork and receipts, she confronted producers with one demand that sent shockwaves through the set. She would not film another scene until trust was addressed. What followed was not a petty argument, but a reckoning. Raised voices, shattered bonds, and a family forced to choose sides in real time. This wasn't reality TV drama anymore. This was legacy on the line. And once the first leak hit social media, there was no turning back. The silence before the storm was the loudest thing anyone on that set had ever felt. 1 minute, the Braxton family reboot was moving like clockwork. Cameras rolling, glam teams buzzing, producers smiling like they'd finally pulled off the impossible. The next minute, everything froze. According to people who claim they were there, it started with a single phone call that Toni Braxton never expected to take. It wasn't a fan. It wasn't a producer. It was a financial manager asking a question that instantly shifted the energy of the entire production. Where did the money go? At first, nobody panicked. Shows juggle numbers all the time. Accounts overlap. Payments move. But this wasn't random. This was specific. A chunk of money tied to Tamar's business-related expenses had allegedly been moved without her approval. Not all at once. Not recklessly, slowly, quietly. The kind of movement that doesn't scream accident. The kind that whispers intention. By the time Tamar was looped in, confusion had already turned into unease. Vendors were calling. Schedules were stalling. And nobody could give her a straight answer. Sources close to Tamar say she initially assumed it was a technical issue. She even laughed it off, telling a friend she was probably overreacting. But when she logged into her account and saw the numbers for herself, that laugh died fast. The funds she believed were secure, earmarked for projects she'd been building toward for months, were no longer where they were supposed to be. And the explanation she was given didn't sit right. Temporary, internal, family-related words that felt rehearsed. Not reassuring, TAMA are reportedly spiraled quietly at first. Not screaming, not posting, just sitting in her trailer staring at her phone like it had betrayed her. One person claims she kept repeating the same sentence under her breath. Why didn't anyone tell me? That question hung heavy because, according to insiders, more than one person already knew something was off. And that's when the hurt deepened into something sharper. This wasn't just about money. It was about being left out of the truth. When Toni found out, everything changed. People who know her say Toni has a way of going emotionally blank when something serious hits. No tears, no theatrics, just focus. She allegedly requested a full breakdown of the accounts tied to the reboot, including anything connected to family-controlled entities. What came back, according to whispers circulating online, stopped her cold. The money didn't disappear. It moved, and the access trail allegedly led somewhere uncomfortably close to home. This is where the story fractures. Depending on who you believe, some say Toni confronted producers first, demanding answers before emotions took over. Others insist she went straight to Tamar, sat her down, and showed her what she'd been given. What everyone agrees on is Tamar's reaction. She broke, not loudly, Not for the cameras, but in that hollow, quiet way that comes when betrayal finally makes sense. One source claims, Tamar said, "I feel stupid for trusting anyone again." The set felt it immediately. Conversations stopped when Tamar walked by. Crew members avoided eye contact. Something had shifted and nobody wanted to be the one caught in the middle. According to multiple insiders, Toni requested filming pause temporarily. But her tone suggested it wasn't a suggestion. Producers scrambled. Phones rang non-stop. And that's when the name everyone is still whispering about allegedly came into the conversation. Towanda. People close to her insist she had no idea how serious the situation had become. They say she believed whatever was happening would be handled privately, quietly, the way family issues always had been before. But this time, it didn't stay behind closed doors. When Toni allegedly asked for a private meeting, witnesses say the air turned icy fast. Towanda reportedly denied any wrongdoing outright, framing the situation as a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. But misunderstanding doesn't explain patterns. And according to those who've seen the documents, patterns were exactly what raised red flags. Tamar couldn't bring herself to sit in that meeting. She stayed away, telling a producer she wasn't emotionally safe enough to be in the same room. That absence spoke volumes, because when Tamar avoids confrontation, it usually means the hurt has already gone too deep. One crew member claims she overheard Tamar say, "I've been here before. I know how this ends if I stay quiet." Evelyn stepped in next, or at least, she tried to. Sources say her approach was calm, controlled, and rooted in preserving the family image. This is family. This doesn't need to be public. Let's not let money tear us apart. But those words didn't land the way she expected. Not with Tamar. Not with Toni. Especially not with Toni, who allegedly replied, "Image doesn't matter if the foundation is cracked." That sentence reportedly ended the conversation. What happened afterward unfolded fast. According to people on set, Towanda was asked to step away from filming until further notice. Not officially fired. Not publicly accused. Just removed from the immediate environment. The way it was done, quiet and procedural, made it feel even heavier, she reportedly argued. Not screaming, but emotional, insisting this was being mishandled. But the decision had already been made. Trust had been questioned. And once that happens, there's no quick fix. The internet didn't know yet, but it could feel something coming. Fans noticed inconsistencies almost immediately. A missing face in group shots. A sudden delay in production updates. Then the anonymous tips started landing in blog inbox. Something big went down on the Braxton set. Money involved, family fallout. No details at first. Just smoke. But smoke always leads somewhere. Tamar felt it before anyone else. The pressure, the speculation, the weight of knowing her pain was about to become public whether she wanted it to or not. According to sources close to her, she struggled with the idea of staying silent. She'd done that before. Protected the family, absorbed the blame, and look where it got her. Alone, hurt, and still explaining herself. This time felt different. This time she had proof that something wasn't right. Even if she wasn't ready to label it, when she finally spoke, it wasn't an accusation. It was a confession. She went live late at night. No warning, no build-up. She didn't name names. She didn't point fingers. She talked about betrayal in general terms, about trusting the wrong people, about boundaries being crossed under the guise of family, and she said something that instantly lit a fire online. When money moves without your consent, that's not love. That's control. The comments exploded. Fans connected dots faster than anyone expected. Old arguments resurfaced. Old clips People began asking questions the family had avoided for years. And still Towanda said nothing. Silence can be strategic, but it can also be deafening. Every hour without a response shifted public opinion further. And behind the scenes, the tension only escalated. Toni, according to insiders, made her position crystal clear. No forced reconciliation. No fake sit-down for ratings. No pretending everything was fine. If the show was moving forward, it would be with honesty or not at all. That stance reportedly shocked the network, but it also earned her respect. Because for once, someone was choosing integrity over performance. By the end of the week, the reboot everyone had waited years for looked nothing like what was originally planned. Relationships were fractured. Trust was shattered. And the question nobody could answer yet lingered in the air like a threat. Was this the end of the Braxton unity as fans knew it? Or just the beginning of a truth nobody was ready to hear? Because if what was being whispered behind the scenes ever fully surfaced, it wouldn't just change the show. It would change how people saw the entire family forever. By the time the rumors hit full volume, there was no stopping the fallout. What had started as quiet whispers behind studio doors erupted into a full-blown social media firestorm, and the Braxton name was suddenly trending for all the wrong reasons. Fans weren't waiting for official statements anymore. They were digging. Old interviews were clipped and reposted. Past arguments were reanalyzed frame by frame. Every awkward pause, every tense dinner scene from years ago was dragged back into the spotlight and reframed as evidence that something had been broken long before this moment. Inside the family, the divide hardened. Tamar, according to people close to her, was emotionally exhausted but resolute. She reportedly felt like the narrative was finally shifting, not because she was yelling louder, but because she was no longer absorbing the blame in silence. Still, the weight of it all began to take a toll. One insider claims she broke down in tears during a closed-door meeting with producers, saying she never wanted this to turn into public spectacle. "I just wanted my truth respected," she allegedly said. "I didn't want to burn the house down. I just wanted the leaks to stop." But the leaks didn't stop. They multiplied. Anonymous screenshots began circulating in fan forums, ALLEGEDLY, showing internal emails referencing unresolved financial discrepancies and cast participation under review. Names were blurred, but fans filled in the blanks anyway. The assumption was immediate and brutal. Towanda was painted as the villain, whether fairly or not, and the internet doesn't wait for nuance. Supporters of Tamar flooded her comments with messages of solidarity, calling her brave, calling her strong, calling her overdue for vindication. Meanwhile, Towanda's social media became a ghost town. Comments were disabled, posts quietly archived. Silence became her shield, but it also became her prison. Evelyn's attempts to calm the storm only added fuel. In what insiders described as a misguided effort to regain control, she reportedly reached out to Tamar privately, urging her to step back from the public conversation, not because Tamar was wrong, but because the family brand was bleeding. Tamar's response, according to someone familiar with the exchange, was devastatingly simple. "You taught us to keep secrets. This is what secrets turn into." That line alone, once it leaked, became a rallying cry for fans who felt they were watching generational silence unravel in real time. Toni, meanwhile, remained largely quiet publicly. But behind the scenes, her influence was unmistakable. Producers knew where she stood. Network executives knew where she stood. And when someone floated the idea of a mediated on-camera reconciliation to give viewers closure, Toni reportedly shut it down immediately. "Closure isn't real if it's forced," she allegedly said, "and I won't perform forgiveness for a storyline." That stance reportedly changed the entire direction of the reboot. What was once envisioned as a glossy family reunion was now becoming something far more raw and uncomfortable. Then came the live that shifted everything. Late one night, Tamar went live again. This time, she didn't speak much. She let the silence do the work. She showed fragments, not full documents, not explicit accusations, just enough context to make it clear that her pain wasn't imagined. Dates, partial numbers, blurred names. She repeatedly emphasized that she wasn't accusing anyone of crimes, only explaining why she felt violated and unsafe. But the damage was already done. The internet interpreted the fragments as confirmation. Clips went viral within minutes. Reaction videos flooded YouTube. Think pieces popped up everywhere. Dissecting family dynamics and power imbalances, Towanda's legal team reportedly noticed immediately. Whispers of cease and desist letters began circulating, not officially confirmed but widely believed. Tamar addressed it head-on in her next appearance, saying she would not be bullied into silence again. "If telling my story makes people uncomfortable," she said, "maybe that discomfort is overdue." The comment ignited another wave of debate. Was Tamar exposing truth, or was the situation spiraling beyond repair? Fans were split, but engagement was through the roof. Behind the scenes, the network was in crisis mode. Advertisers expressed concern. Scheduling meetings were held back to. One insider claims executives debated scrapping the entire project, fearing the controversy had overshadowed the show's original intent. But the numbers told a different story. Interest was higher than ever. People weren't tuning out. They were leaning in. The chaos, uncomfortable as it was, had become the story. Towanda eventually resurfaced with a cryptic message that only deepened the divide. A short video. Dim lighting, carefully chosen words about healing, faith, and being misunderstood. She stopped short of addressing the allegations directly, framing herself instead as someone overwhelmed by circumstances beyond her control. To some it sounded sincere. To others, it sounded evasive. The comments were brutal. Screenshots of the video spread faster than the video itself, often accompanied by captions accusing her of deflection. Tamar didn't respond immediately. According to people close to her, she was tired. Not just physically, but spiritually. The constant noise had reopened wounds she'd spent years trying to heal. But something else was happening too. Support was pouring in. Fans shared their own stories of family betrayal and financial manipulation. Women especially saw themselves in Tamar's struggle. What began as gossip was morphing into something more resonant. A conversation about boundaries, accountability, and self-worth. When the network finally broke its silence, The statement was carefully worded but unmistakable. The reboot would continue, but with adjustments. Casting changes were acknowledged without specifics. A new creative direction was promised. Fans read between the lines instantly. Towanda's absence was confirmed without ever being named. Tamar reposted the statement with a single word: truth. Toni liked it. That interaction alone sent fans into a frenzy. Filming resumed under a cloud of tension. Crew members describe a different atmosphere entirely. Less forced laughter, more honesty. Tamar and Toni reportedly moved through the space with a quiet solidarity that hadn't existed before. They weren't pretending everything was fine. They weren't smoothing over cracks. They were standing in them. And the cameras captured it all. Towanda, for her part, remained on the outside looking in. Sources claim she felt blindsided by how quickly the situation escalated, insisting privately that her intentions had been misunderstood. Whether that's true or not may never be fully resolved publicly. What is clear is that the family dynamic has shifted permanently. Trust, once fractured, doesn't easily mend under studio lights. As the premiere date approached, anticipation hit a fever pitch. Viewers weren't just watching for entertainment anymore, they were watching for answers, for accountability, for someone to finally say the quiet parts out loud. And when the first episode aired, stripped of polish and heavy on emotion, the response was immediate. Ratings soared. Social media lit up. People praised the rawness, the refusal to sugarcoat pain. In one of the most talked about moments, Tamar looked directly into the camera and said, "Sometimes losing people is how you find yourself." The line echoed across platforms, quoted and reposted thousands of times. It wasn't an attack. It wasn't an accusation. It was a boundary. And boundaries, once set, change everything. The story didn't end neatly. There was no group hug, no tearful apology montage, just distance, space, and the uncomfortable reality that not every family wound heals on camera. Toni later described the experience in a rare interview as necessary, even if it was painful. She emphasized that protecting peace sometimes means making choices others won't understand. And that's where the saga now stands. A family legacy altered, a reboot transformed into a reckoning, and a question that still hangs in the air, unanswered and unsettling. When loyalty conflicts with truth, which one do you choose? Because the Braxton story, as fans are now realizing, was never just about fame or music or reality TV. It was about power, silence, and what happens when someone finally decides they've had enough. And now it's on you. Because stories like this don't just exist to be watched, they exist to be judged, debated, and remembered. What you've just heard isn't some distant celebrity drama. It's a mirror. It's about trust being tested, about money changing dynamics, about family lines being crossed, and the price that comes with finally speaking up. If this story made your chest tighten even a little, if you caught yourself picking sides, replaying moments, questioning motives, then you're already part of it. This conversation doesn't end when the video does. It only gets louder. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because silence is exactly what allows these situations to repeat themselves. Was drawing a hard line the only option left? Or did things spiral too far once the truth started leaking? Was protecting peace worth the cost of fractured bonds? Or was peace never real to begin with? Say it out. Or was peace never real to begin with? Say it out.